All right, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to Around the Bases, Tuesday, March 7th, 2023. Still waking up a little bit. But no, got a lot of stuff going on in baseball, World Baseball Classic kicking off today. Joined by Jay McLovin. How's it going, Jay?
Hey, I'm doing well. And like I was talking with Dustin, you guys about, man, that 10 p.m. Eastern time really kicks butt trying to watch these games. But I understand that's what the Koreans want to do. Well, so be it, Korea. Let's stay up at 10 o'clock and party to the sounds of cucaracha.
And we're joined by also the stat guy, Dustin Reese. How's it going?
It's World Baseball Classic Day!
God, the last time I heard something that fucking annoying was producing a child.
Yeah, that's
But I love him. But I love her, Jerry. I love
her. How's things been going down there in Arizona?
Finally warming up. We hit 71 degrees yesterday.
Oh, that's pretty bad. You've been there what? A week and a half, 2 weeks, and
week and a half, and I've had 3 days over. I've had 3 days over 64.
64 is not bad. That's good weather, man. That's a light jacket.
That's not what
Arizona's having like the coldest winter they've had in recent memory. They've been like 15 to 20 degrees below average pretty much every single day since the end of January.
Well, that's across the board. I mean, you look at California. I mean, California's getting some of the craziest weather patterns right now as well. I mean, I think in some of the parts of Middle California they were getting snow. So yeah, I mean, it's out there, man. It's out there for weird reasons. This whole weather thing. I mean, look up north. I mean, look at all the heavier blizzards are getting in normal, and you go down south and we're getting a heat wave. I mean, it's just kind of weird now. But actually, I think this week in Georgia it's supposed to get down to like the low and mid 50s. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think it's about. It was like 70 here yesterday, but I think it's only going to get up in the 50s today because it's raining.
Huh. Yeah, absolutely. But should be good for baseball. Hey, at least when you're out there and at least you're not sweating or dealing with mosquitoes. So I mean, I'll take 64 at a baseball game. Not a bad deal. Not a bad deal at all.
Not too bad, especially depending on depending on the wind. The wind, if you get a big wind, it can make it a little cool.
Yeah, yesterday the wind was like 30.
But
I gotta say something real quick, guys. I seen this earlier this morning, and it made me laugh so hard. Remember last night, and this is not baseball related, so I'm not gonna take a lot of time, but it made me laugh so damn hard. I gotta talk about it real quick. So the Memphis Grizzlies had that members only meeting, and quote unquote, they want better discipline on road games. I guess they're saying, yo, guys, please leave your firearms at home and don't post on Instagram. Thank you. That is all.
Oh man.
I saw that this morning. I was like, damn. What a time to be alive. But back to baseball.
Well, I got the World Baseball Classic kicking off today. I've had some players have to back out a little bit because of injuries. Do you think we're going to see more of that because these players are just trying to get ramped up, maybe a little quicker than a normal season?
I think you might see that more on the American side than the international side, just because the international side has so many leagues that they have and they play a lot longer because you have the Venezuelan Winter League, you have the Dominican Winter League, you have the Puerto Rican Winter League, there's a Mexican Winter League. There's so many winter leagues now in like Latin America that these players are essentially playing 12 months out of the year. We're pretty much the only country, and obviously the European countries, that don't play baseball 12 months out of the year. So if anyone's going to get hurt, it's probably going to be us just because we have that 3 months off.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, I guess, from a conditioning perspective, like you said earlier, the other teams that are playing year round, they pretty much stay in that same, I guess, condition all year, whereas, the U.S. does take breaks, and we do have, I guess, our time off. But I don't know, Dustin, at the same time, playing baseball too much can also lead to injuries as well, because you're overplaying yourself. So I don't know, man. I don't know if that's 100% accurate. I mean, I understand where you're going with that, but I know they have their issues as well, injury wise.
Yeah, the biggest difference when you get to like the winter leagues and kind of the Latin American countries, we use like a 5-man rotation here where a starting pitcher's pitching
True.
once every 5 days.
Yeah.
They're going with 8-man rotations. So you're literally pitching once a week. So you're technically getting extended breaks in between your starts down there because they have more players instead of a 26-man roster. I think they have a 35-man roster. Like, they have extra players, so these players are essentially getting more days off, more time off to stay fresh, to stay conditioned, but yet still getting the time off that they need.
Yeah, I mean, I get where you're going with that.
Yeah,
Unless you're
I think you see a lot of
who hates to have more than 4 days off of rest. I mean, some pitchers are like that. They don't like to go long extended periods of time without throwing.
I think also one thing that can hurt the Americans is when you have that time off, it takes time to get your body back calloused used to it, so you can get them soft tissue injuries a little bit easier than maybe if you stayed in a little bit better shape year round.
I mean, truthfully, if you're a fielder or if you're a positional player, especially if you're like US or whatever, I mean, you don't need to play all these games like they do in the winter leagues. I mean, yeah, it is nice to see different pitching styles and things like that to keep your timing and things like that. But you can also achieve that same thing, just by going to the batting cage to present soft tissue injuries. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't tell me these guys don't got personal trainers at some level that are training them in the off season, keeping their stuff done. I mean, but I do know where you're coming from, and I can see what you're talking about, though, not having that game time conditioning for 3 months, and then you come back into it. And I mean, Lance McCullers is a prime example of that. The guy just, and so is Severino for the Yankees. Like we were talking about the other night, Gonzo. These guys always seem to get hurt right before the season, and then about the second or third season, then they kick it in, and they finally, start seeing them in the rotation. So I guess to your point, I think that'd be more of a pitcher thing, wouldn't it? Than it would be maybe a positional player thing.
Yeah.
Because a pitcher trying to ramp up too quick after you're not throwing the 100 miles an hour every day, and then
right
a few months and you come back and you try to start ramping all them pitches on your arms too quick, and not just your arm. I mean, because a lot of people think pitching is just about your arm, but pitchers use their whole body.
That's why they got a rubber, so that way, I mean, you push off of your heel all the way out through your arm. But yeah. I mean, I guess if you're a baseball player, it wouldn't be a bad idea to get in some of the winter leagues. Like Dustin said, you're not pitching every game. You're only pitching every once a week, so that might not be a bad thing for pitchers to get involved in. I don't know if positional players have to really go down to the winter league so much, but definitely pitching, would want to go down there just to, like you said, to keep them. And I don't think they have to do the whole thing. I think they go down there and they slowly start to ramp up through the winter leagues into the regular season.
Yep. Dustin, who's the favorites to win the World Baseball Classic?
Obviously, Team US would think they're the favorites because they are the defending champs. But if you're not saying the Dominican Republic, I don't think you've really kind of dove into their roster a lot. Their roster is absolutely loaded. I mean, you look at pitching stats that the Dominican Republic has right now. They have the NL Cy Young winner, Sandy Alcantara, set to pitch their first game. They got Johnny Cueto. They got Luis Garcia, Jaime Garcia, Christian Vasquez, Hector Neris, Cesar Vasquez. So their pitching staff is deep. Catcher, they got Gary Sanchez. You look at some of their infielders. Willie Adames, Manny Machado, Rafael Devers, Wander Franco, Jeremy Pena, Ketel Marte, Gene Segura. The outfield, Julio Rodriguez, Juan Soto, Teoscar Hernandez, and Eloy Jimenez. You have Nelson Cruz as your DH. I mean, as a pitcher, what hitter can you avoid?
Yeah.
Well, now.
It sounds like a pretty good team other than the Houston Astro players that are on there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, nobody wants a world. No, nobody wants a damn world champion on their team. Nobody wants that.
You drinking a Monster over here already, Jay?
Monster with a little bit of Jack. So I wake myself up. I go to sleep with it. I wake up with it. I'm a man of steel. So you get this nice, beautiful facial hair.
They do got a scary roster. And like you said, that lineup, I wouldn't want to be a pitcher, have to try to navigate that lineup.
I mean, you look at it, too, from this side of things, like a lot of these pitchers aren't going to give you more than 5 innings just because they're not at that point in spring yet where they're stretched out enough to go 5 innings. As a reliever, do you want to come into the game and face this Dominican lineup?
Yeah.
That's all I need to hear, Cruz, Frankie. Pena. What more is there to say? Pena. Just say it. Pena. Just sounds nice when it rolls off the tongue and a nice, beautiful base hit or home run or a beautiful defensive gem. Pena. Pena nuts. I love the word Pena. Especially when it's like a nice, beautiful world champion ring on the finger, man. It's a beautiful thing, Frankie. I don't think Gleyber Torres has that. Might be a little barren over on that side of the hand.
Yeah, and then another team that nobody really talks about that I think could be a sleeper this year is Puerto Rico. I mean, they don't really have the pitching that the Dominican Republic has, but they do have Jose Barrios is their ace. They got Derek Rodriguez. They have Marcus Stroman, who ironically was the pitcher for Team USA in 2017 when they won the World Baseball Classic. So now he's switching over to Puerto Rico, where he has dual citizenship. They have MJ Melendrez, Christian Vasquez, and Martin Maldonado as their catchers. You look at the infield, you got Javier Baez, Francisco Lindor, Carlos Correa. I mean, outfield, Nelson Velasquez, Eddie Rosario. And the manager is Yadier Molina, so that alone is he's a player's manager. Players are going to love playing for him, and that's another talented, loaded roster. Japan, I think, is the one that a lot of people think can contend with the Dominican Republic, mainly because they are really the only team that has the pitching that can shut that lineup down. You have Shohei Ohtani as your ace. You have Yu Darvish as your number 2. You have Kodai Senga, who the Mets got in free agency, as your number 3. Your number 4 is Yuki Matsui, who's supposed to be the top Japanese pitcher to be posted in next year's free agent class. Then you also have Roki Saki, who is a closer who can throw 104. So the Japan team has the pitching that can shut the Dominican Republic lineup down. I just don't know if they have the hitting. I mean, they have Shohei Ohtani, obviously, as the big name hitter. They did have Seiya Suzuki, but he's got that oblique injury, so he's no longer on that team. And then you have Lars Nootbaar from St. Louis, and then obviously Masataka Yoshida, who the Red Sox signed as a free agent. So they do have some big names, but they just don't have the big hitting that the Dominican Republic has.
Yeah.
Where would you rank the United States pitching up against the other teams?
I think United States has one of the they don't have one of the better starting staffs, I don't think. But in terms of the overall pitching staff, top to bottom, I think they have the most overall depth. They can go with like a lot of different options. I mean, your starting pitchers are Kendall Graveman, who has really come on the last couple of years. You have Kyle Freeland, Merrill Kelly, Lance Lynn, Miles Michaelis as your starting pitchers, and then Adam Wainwright as well. So you have a mix of veterans, you have a mix of young guys, you have a mix of
Jesus Christ, Adam Wainwright. That dude been pitching since Jesus was on earth. Are we kidding each other?
Hey, and he's still tough as hell.
You have a mix. You have a mix of veterans. You have a mix of young guys. You have a mix of hard throwers that can throw in the mid to upper 90s. And then you have a mix of your finesse guys like Adam Wainwright. So there's a lot of different matchups that Mark DeRosa can go with his pitching to kind of keep hitters and kind of keep other teams off balance, because they're not going to have a rotation that has all these guys throwing in the mid to upper 90s. They're going to have one game where you're going to throw out a guy like Kendall Graveman who throws 95, 96, 97 every time. And then the next game, you might throw Adam Wainwright, who's sitting around 89, 90. So these teams are really going to have to kind of scout Team USA a little bit more in depth, just because of how off balance their pitching staff can keep teams. And then you look at the lineup itself. I mean, Pete Alonso, Tim Anderson, Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, Trey Turner, Mookie Betts, Kyle Schwarber, Mike Trout, and Kyle Tucker. They have a very solid lineup. No one's going to say they don't. I think everyone's question is, this is the first time the Team USA has had the target on their back since the World Baseball Classic started in 2006. They've only ever made it out of the bracket stages twice, and the first time they made it out of the bracket stages was 2009, and they lost right away in the quarterfinal, and then the second time they made it out of pool play was in 2017 when they won it. So they really haven't had the most success in the World Baseball Classic, but now that they've had that taste of being the champions, now that they've had that taste of being quote-unquote the best team in the world, I think a lot of people are curious to see how Team USA handles that pressure. Because we've seen Japan be the champions in 2006, be the champions in 2009, and then lose to Puerto Rico in the championship in 2012. So Japan handled the pressure just fine. Puerto Rico has handled the pressure of being champions just fine. Now it's the question is, can Team USA handle that same pressure, knowing that this will be the first time that they're the hunted?
How many guys that are on the roster this year were on the roster in the 17? Is there quite a few of them, or is this pretty much a new roster?
For Team USA?
Yes.
Nolan Arenado played in 2017. Goldschmidt played in 2017. JT Realmuto played in 2017. And then I believe, obviously, Adam Wainwright did. I think Adam Wainwright is the only pitcher on this year's staff that was on that 2017 roster. Because Marcus,
yeah. How old is Adam Wainwright? He's got to be what, 39?
39 going on 40.
So him and Verlander are about the same age.
Because you look at who was on that Team USA pitching staff in 2017. Like I said, Marcus Stroman was the ace, so now he's in Puerto Rico. Drew Smiley was the number 2 back in 2017. Adam Wainwright, I think, was the number 3. I believe Zach Greinke was on that staff. I believe Verlander was on that staff. So, I mean, there's a lot of guys that were on that staff, but Wainwright's the only one that came back. And I think the main reason why he came back is because of Yachty. Yachty being the manager, and Yachty him and Yachty just seem tied together. Whatever Yachty does, it seems like he's always going to be tied to Wainwright.
Yeah. I never bet against Wainwright. Every time I've bet against him, he's always kicked my fucking ass. I'd have parlays that would come down to the Cardinals game, and I'd pick the other team, and Wainwright be on the mound, and he'd always. So I never bet against Wainwright anymore.
Huh. Yeah, and if you look at the world rankings for the baseball right now, you have Japan sitting at number 1. You have Chinese Taipei sitting at number 2, and Team USA is number 3. And then Dominican, I believe, is 7 or 8. So, I mean, Dominican isn't as highly ranked as you would think they are, but they do have the most talent. They do have the team that can do the most damage. And the scary part about it is they had Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on that team until he pulled out. So that would have been another bat that you'd have had to contend with in the middle of that lineup.
Is the Chinese Taipei in the World Baseball Classic?
Yeah, they start their first game is, I believe, the 5 a.m. game on Wednesday, because today it's Cuba and the Netherlands today to kick off the World Baseball Classic. And then it is Chinese Taipei and Panama
If they're
tomorrow,
ranked second, why is not more people talking about them as a threat to win it?
because they're always going to be one of those teams that either takes first or second in pool play. They're always going to be one of those teams that advances to the quarterfinals. They're always going to be one of those teams that is always in the running to be in the championship, but they always have to go through Japan or they always have to go through Korea to get that. And that's kind of what their Achilles heel has been. They've never finished less than the quarterfinal. And I believe they made 3 semifinals in the 5 World Baseball Classics, but then they end up running into Korea or Japan, and that's kind of been the teams that they have not been able to overcome.
Was Vladimir Guerrero, was he born in the U.S. or was he born in Dominican Republic?
Vlad Guerrero Jr.?
Yeah.
He was born in the U.S.
So how the hell would he be able to play? The only team he'd be able to play for, because he doesn't have dual citizenship, right?
Yeah, he's got dual citizenship because his dad and his mom were born in the Dominican Republic, so he's got dual citizenship.
I never trust anybody who has dual citizenship. No, seriously, I don't trust those fuckers one bit. Look, in the military, if you have dual citizenship, you can't get a security clearance. Why do you think that is? I don't trust anybody who serves 2 countries. If you don't, you gotta make a decision who you gonna be loyal to. I don't trust anybody with dual citizenship. Fuckers.
Okay. Tell us how you really feel there, Jay.
Oh, it's true.
Look,
you better make your mind up. There's a reason why we don't give security clearances to military members who have dual citizenship. There's a reason.
Yeah, if you guys are waiting until Team USA plays, you have to wait until Saturday.
I was gonna say, yeah, they don't play on Saturday.
Yes.
And who do we play on Saturday? Who do we get first?
Team USA will get Great Britain first. Let me pull up their roster to see.
And they're playing here in the U.S., correct? Or
they're playing it at Phoenix.
Okay. I got it. I'm with you.
So Great Britain does not have any major league pitchers. I don't know if any of them are in the minors, but they don't have any. Vance Worley, who used to be a major league pitcher, is going to be one of their starters. And then you look at position players. Yeah, I mean, Trace Thompson. Everybody knows who Trace Thompson is. So, yeah, they have like 2 major league players on Team Great Britain, so that should be a relatively easy game for U.S. And then they follow that up with Mexico on Sunday, Canada on Monday, and then they close out pool play with Colombia on Wednesday.
Wow. Okay. So how many weeks in all is the World Baseball Classic? Like if you had to put it all together, include the championship, how many? It's about a month and a half long.
About 3 weeks. It's
about
and the last day I believe is the 25th because regular season for baseball starts the 30th.
Yeah, so it's almost a month. Okay.
Yeah, so 7th through the 25th.
Wow.
Or actually 7th through the 20. It's actually 2 weeks. 7th through the 21st. The championship game is set to be the 21st.
It's 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's gonna be 2 weeks of awesome.
Yeah, I'll watch some tonight. I'll watch quite a bit of it. Anyway, then I'll watch Saturday. Well, what time does U.S. play on Saturday? Do you know?
Yeah. 1 second. U.S. will play at 8:00 at night on Saturday.
I get to watch a little bit of it on my way home.
Yeah, so they play 8:00 at night on Saturday. Then they play 9:00 at night on Sunday.
I'll be able to watch Sundays. Saturday I have a wrestling show at
9:00 at night on Monday. So it's 8 or 9 o'clock for Team US every single game they play.
Well, that's not bad. Dude. 8:00 at night.
They're on Phoenix time, so it's 6 o'clock Phoenix time at that point.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be 9 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah,
which is still
time games.
I hate night games. I'd rather have if you're gonna give me a Saturday game, give me like around a 5 or 6, man. Come on, let's go. God, I hate those late games.
Depends on what time of the year it is. If it's like late July, early August, I like going to the night games because it's not near as hot.
No, yeah, June, July, I can understand that. But damn, we're in March. Give me some 8. Hey, give me some 6 o'clock games. Shit, I'll be good.
Yeah, dead of summer, the night games are nice.
Oh no, I understand what you're saying. The only downside to Georgia is if you try to have sometimes when you have the night games, depending on the temperature, man, you get them sand gnats that come out at night. And I'll tell you, man, I thought mosquitoes were bad. Sand gnats are the devil of the earth, man. I'm telling you. That's like the worst damn thing I've ever seen in my life, man. Freaking gnats.
Or Dustin, are the teams down there starting to get more used to these new rules?
Some of them are. I mean, the hitters I think are fine with it just because they're just in the batter's box ready to go. But the ones that you're seeing are having the most trouble with it are honestly the veterans that have been doing this for as long as they've been doing it. Drew Smiley comes to mind. He actually openly admitted yesterday that he's struggling mightily this spring because he's never been a guy that's worked overly slow, but he's also never been a guy that has worked fast either. He's one of those guys that just goes in and does his normal routine, pitches, get his signs, and does whatever, and he hasn't had any pitch clock violations yet. But the fact that it's in the back of his mind, knowing that he's got to get this pitch out in 15 seconds or he's got to get this pitch off in 20 seconds, he's struggling with his location. He's just not doing the things he typically wants to do because he's thinking about the pitch clock too much.
I find it interesting. I was looking on ESPN's MLB sites, and they were ranking the teams most likely to win, and they actually have Dominican Republic as number one. And I thought that was pretty interesting because I know you said you had another one. They had them down around 6 or 7.
No, that's their world ranking. They're ranked 7th or 8th in the world, which is based off of the last World Baseball Classic and kind of what's happened in the last 6 years since. But they're the pick to win just because of that overall lineup that they have put in place.
I did want to say that the most notable player to know on the Dominican team is Christian Javier. If you don't know who he is, he's a Houston Astro. If you still don't know who he is, he won Game 4 no-hitter, and he also had the no-hitter against the Yankees. What a time to be alive.
Always ties it back into the Houston Astros.
Hey, no, I'm not tying it into anybody. I'm just saying the Dominican publication that I'm reading.
You had to make it known that he was a Houston Astro.
Oh, well, I mean, not everybody. Maybe some people don't know. They might not have a TV, or maybe they don't have access to international understanding. So I was just doing it for the record, Gonzo. Don't get personal. Look, just because we got rings and y'all, don't get personal with it. It's okay. It's all good.
Hey, we have rings. We ain't had rings for a while.
Man, what a time to be alive. But no, seriously, I get what Justin's saying. It's just interesting how two articles spin it differently. Some are saying Japan, China, and then you get down to Dominican, around 6 or 7. And then some other articles, they actually put – I'll tell you right now, man, Dominican, I think is probably they're probably legitimately, in my opinion, ranked number 2. I think Japan's probably 1. I think Dominican's probably 2. I think U.S. is 3. I think Puerto Rico slides in around 4 or 5. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, I'm rooting for, of course, United States, but yeah, I think Dominican's going to be tough to beat with that lineup they have, and
certainly their pitching, right? I mean, they have great pitching.
Yeah, pitching. That's what I'm saying. The starting pitching for the United States worries me a little bit going up against their starting rotation.
Yeah. I agree with you.
It depends on because. Dustin, is it pool play? You play pool play and then go into a bracket, right?
Yeah, so you play all 4 teams in your pool once, and then the top 2 teams in each pool will advance to the quarterfinals, and then obviously semifinals, third place game, and then championship.
So I mean, a lot of it depends on how managers use their pitchers as well as you get out of that pool play, how their rotation sets up too. That can be a factor.
I tell you what, man. Hey, I'm not looking past Venezuela either because they got some pretty good hitters on their team as well, man. I mean, well, with you got what's that dude's name? Acuna Jr. He's over there. You got obviously Altuve. You got Gleyber Torres, but they have some pretty good pitchers too, man. And Rodriguez and Garcia and a few others. So I mean, I'm not gonna look past Venezuela either, man. I think they could be. They got them. I think they're currently ranked around 4th or 5th in this particular list, and they actually have what is it? They have Japan, believe it or not, at number 3. They got the U.S. at number 2. I don't know if I believe in that. I think to Dustin's point, man, that Japan pitching is going to be really good, and they have great hitters as well. So I don't know. That's going to be there's some in this list I don't necessarily agree with, but
yeah.
Puerto Rico's at 5. Korea's at 6. Wow. Okay. I thought Cuba would be higher. They got Cuba ranked number 8, and they got Mexico ranked 7.
Yeah, the problem with Cuba is every one of their big international names, whether it's a hitter, whether it's a pitcher, has pretty much said they're not going to do this. I mean,
Wow.
you look at the outfield. You have Luis Robert from the White Sox, who's obviously the biggest name there. But then your second biggest name in the outfield is a 38-year-old Yoenis Cespedes.
Huh.
And like the rest of their highly regarded outfielders have decided to not do it because they're just getting ready for the international signing period when that begins. And then the same thing with the infield. You have guys like Yoan Moncada at third base. But outside of that, you don't have anybody else that's a well-known name, even though Cuba has plenty of well-known names. And then you look at the pitching rotation, there really is not a well-known name, and the only one that people might know is Ronos Elias, who was with the Seattle Mariners. He's in the Chicago Cubs system now, but he was in winter ball this past winter in Venezuela, and he made 7 starts and threw 48 scoreless innings in his 7 starts in winter ball.
Wow. That man, I didn't realize Israel is in the baseball classic.
Israel's there. Italy is there.
I mean, I get Italy and I get the European teams. So I'm just saying, but Israel is kind of more getting closer to the Middle East area. I just didn't even realize that baseball was even a thing in Israel.
Well, I mean, it's really not, because it's a lot of dual citizenship players or players that have Israeli descent, because the Israeli roster has 27 of their 30 players are born in the United States.
I'm about to say, because I think their number 1 headlining player on here was Jock Peterson.
Yeah, Jock Peterson is their number 1 headline player. You have Alex Dickerson in the outfield, and then you have Ian Kinsler as the manager. You have Brad Ausmus as the bench coach.
For Israeli?
Yep.
Wow.
Kevin Youkilis is the hitting coach.
So you don't even have to be Israeli descent. Anybody can just go play with those people.
No, you have to have some.
I say those people because anybody can go play with them.
You have to have some sort of Israeli descent to be on the team. You don't have to have.
What the hell does Euclid or when's the last time Brad Ausmus ever knew anything about Israel? I'm just saying.
He's probably got relation that's from Italy or Israel.
What relation does he have?
I don't know.
What does he do? Does he go to Ancestry.com?
Hey.
And he just holds up the certificate? Excuse me. My great-great-great-great-grandfather was a rabbi.
Now, to be a coach or a manager, do you have to be of that country's descent?
No. Coaches and managers, you don't have to be. There's teams especially teams like Israel and Italy and Nicaragua, who made their first ever World Baseball Classic this year. They have such a hard time just finding players to play on their team that they're not nearly as strict when it comes to managers. They just kind of throw teams out there that are looking for a manager in the World Baseball Classic, and you usually have 5 or 10 guys just kind of jump on the opportunity because it just gets them into coaching.
That's it. That's interesting to me. So coaching, you don't necessarily have to have that country's – you don't have to be a member of that country. but the players would need to have some sort of relation to that country in order to play. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Interesting. I mean, I kind of understand that because even in the Olympics, I think the Olympic teams use Russian coaches on the American side sometimes to coach their players. So, okay, I can understand. I get what they're saying. Okay. Interesting.
My favorite part about the World Baseball Classic is, I mean, I watch the World Cup for soccer all the time, and it's a very similar vibe, just not as intense just because the stadiums aren't as big. Some of the countries aren't into baseball as much as other countries, but it gives you that same vibe that the World Cup is. But the biggest thing that I take away from the World Baseball Classic every year, which makes me appreciate the game of baseball even more, is how different every country plays the game.
Okay.
Like you have Team USA and how we play baseball in the United States, where it's home runs or strikeouts. That's what we care about in the United States. That's how we played baseball for the last decade. And as much as it sucks sometimes, it's not going to change. And then you go watch a team like Japan, where it's sacrifice bunts, hit and run, steals, and all the small ball approaches that we did 20 years ago. That's something that they still do in Japan now, where they preach contact. They don't worry about home runs. They know that if you hit the ball hard enough, it's going to go over the fence. And then you got teams like Cuba, where it's Cuba, Dominican Republic, any of those Latin American teams and Central American teams where it's all flash, it's all flair. Like every time they do something, they act like it's the most incredible play they've ever done just because that's how they play in their culture.
So what are you saying, man? The U.S. is like the Walmart of baseball?
It's not the Walmart. No, it's not the Walmart of baseball. Everyone just plays it different. And if you watch 4 games in one day, because once we get kind of towards Saturday and Sunday, you're going to start having like 4 to 6 games a day because they got to try to get through pool play. If you literally sit down and watch every single game that is on Sunday, you're going to see 8 different teams playing on Sunday. You will see 8 different styles of baseball throughout the day.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, yeah. Because these countries might have their own type of philosophies or ways of everything is culturally based, right? You think about Japan or Asia, I think of more technically driven companies or people. It's a very technical society where, like you said, America, we just want to hit the damn ball over the fence. We don't care how technical you make it, right?
And if you think about it, but it
didn't used to be that way, though. America used to be built on the sacrifice bunt, the squeeze play, all that. And we don't do, like you said, the last time I seen a really good bunter was when Michael Bourne played.
And if you think about it, you see the same thing in even like in Little League baseball when they get to the World Series and have the international teams, United States teams, watching them games, you see different styles of play from each country. So it makes sense that you see that even probably at a higher level in the World Baseball Classic.
I will say this, though. I will say this about Japanese baseball, and I can say it because I've experienced it. Oh, God, it's boring. Seriously, no offense, Japan, no offense, but your games are boring as hell. Like, what I mean by boring is like the fans, the interaction, all of it, just boring. Like you don't get the bravado in the stands. You get these dudes, and they got them little clappers, but then when the clapper's over with, they sit back down. And I swear to God, it's like going from a library to like a bunch of cowbells back to the library again.
And if you watch,
that's the best way I can explain Japanese baseball.
And if you watch the KBO, which is the Korean baseball, they have cheerleaders. They have a bunch of other dances they do between hitters, and it ends up being like a party.
Yeah, I'm down with the Korean stuff. Hey, listen, that's the case. Hey, shit. I've never been to a Korean baseball game, so I can't speak on Korea. But if that's the case,
I've been watching live. I watched a lot of the KBO on TV, especially during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Them fans are a whole different extreme.
Man, I remember at the time I was dating this young Russian girl, and we decided to go see the Chibalote. I don't remember what Chibalote's mascot was. It was something, but it was Chibalote versus some other team, and we were on the Chibalote side, and I think the dude hit a home, or no, he hit it, but and then the guy dropped the ball from Chibalote, and I was like, "You son of a bitch, you biscuit butter eating bastard!" And everybody's like, "Oh my god, who's this white crazy son of a bitch?" And then my at the time the girl I was seeing, she's like, Jason, you got to sit down. You're too loud. You got to sit down. Here's your little clappers. Use your clappers. And I'm like, motherfucker, I don't want you little damn clapper. It's like Clark Griswold meets Japanese baseball. It was amazing. Good times.
Yeah, I've never been to a Japanese game live.
It's just, oh my god, it's just, I think that's what it is. I think when we go like an American baseball game, it's just more lively, right? It's more energetic. It's more whatever.
That's because Japan.
But our cultures are different.
It's Japan treats baseball like a form of art. It's not a form of sport to them. It's a form of art because that is what their nation's sport is. They don't have all the options that we have. They don't have.
I agree.
They don't have like hockey. They don't have like basketball as well known as we have. They have soccer, but that's about it. They don't have football. Baseball's like their sport. They treat it like a form of art, so they do pay attention to it. They pay attention to all the little details. They don't get as into it as you would think, just because they're actually paying attention to what's going on. They're actually
but it goes more than just. It goes more than just how the actual players and coaches, play the game. I'm talking about the crowd, just the average guy there to see a baseball game. Like they don't have that. I don't know. It's just, and again, it's a cultural thing, right? I mean, the Japanese culture, they are a very quiet, non-boisterous type of people. Whereas Americans, we're just, we're out there. We're all over the damn place. And I like that. I'd rather be that way than like I said, I don't want to go to a library. I don't want to have little sticks and then go back to being in the library again. To me, that's not fun. That's not exciting. But again, the cultures, it's the cultural. The cultures are just, we're just different from them. We really are.
Yes, we are. And I agree. If I'm at a game, I mean that's part of going to a live game is the atmosphere.
Right. Yeah, and that's why I look. It's all about atmosphere, man. For me, God, I could just see Frankie Cruz Jr. at a Japanese baseball game. He'd probably get kicked out. I'd probably be right there with him.
Oh yeah, and like how you were just saying, like the fans and everything. How they got to get more into it. But another thing that fans really start to appreciate for this as opposed to a lot of other things.
Right.
This is an audition for a lot of players. And people don't realize that when these World Baseball Classics take place. But this is how Yoenis Cespedes was discovered. This is how guys like Shohei Ohtani were discovered. This is how a lot of the foreign stars in our league now were discovered. And they just put an article out not even that long ago that a pitcher for the Oryx Buffaloes, which is one of the Japanese professional teams, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, is basically using this as his audition to get posted for free agency next year.
I
especially with there not being getting ready to start being an international draft, but with there not being an international draft before, I could see the World Baseball Classic being
the international draft takes effect next January. So a lot of these players now, instead of waiting until they need to wait to get posted, a lot of these players now are going to use this World Baseball Classic as their audition heading into that international draft next year. They're going to go out there and show these teams what they can do, and that's going to kind of help set the stage for when they have that international draft, because I believe the international draft is going to be 5 rounds, I believe.
And
so that's 150 players that are going to get drafted from whether it's the Dominican Republic, whether it's from Cuba, whether it's from Korea or Japan or wherever they come from. That's 150 international players that may not have been drafted or may not have been signed to a major league contract if they didn't have this event going on.
And then even after they start this international draft, guys that don't get drafted, the World Baseball Classic can still be a showcase for them to try.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the main reason why I think this should take place more than every 4 years. I'm not saying have it every year, but every 2 years, in my opinion, is when this event should take place, just because it is a showcase for the international market to make a name for themselves so they can make a name for themselves stateside. That is their time to showcase what they can do against American talent, and that is their opportunity to be like, we can play in your league if you give us a chance.
Switching over real quick to MLB, did y'all see where Justin Turner got hit in the face with that baseball and he had to get like 16 stitches in his face? I just seen a picture of it, man. I was like, I'm really surprised that he didn't have a concussion or a broke skull or something. I mean, getting hit by a damn pitch in the face, jeez Louise, man, damn.
And it's really something I'm kind of surprised you don't see more of, because especially with as hard as these pitchers are throwing now, and with the league keep changing baseballs, so then it's hard to get used to a grip, and with pitchers not using sticky stuff anymore to help with their grip. I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen players getting. I think we've seen a little bit players getting hit up a little. Got to go up a little bit, but I'm surprised you don't see more guys get hit in the head, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But
and it says it looks like he got swelling in the face, obviously, but all of his issues were soft tissue, injuries, and there were no fractures, and his scans came back clean. I mean, I got to be honest with you, man. If you're getting hit head like that, like you said, 100 mile an hour, when it comes off the bat, I mean, damn, that's got to be crazy.
Dude, I got hit like in the side with the fastball from a little league kid and broke a rib. So
I believe that. Yeah.
Hey Jay, was
that's not 100 miles an hour to suck it.
Jay, was James Click with the Astros?
He was. Yes.
Okay.
He signed on. He's on with somebody now. I forgot who's. I don't know if it was Toronto or.
Yep, he is the VP of baseball operations in Toronto.
Yeah, I saw he got picked up, and rightfully so. The Astros, I'm still going to stick by that. The Astros were dumb as hell to not re-sign him or get him under contract. This guy literally has built the Astros from around that 2017 time period to where they are now, and the fact that that they didn't sign him was, to me, a boneheaded thing to do. But it is what it is. I'm just one person. It just makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense that you don't re-sign this guy as effective as he's been the entire time, and you don't get back under contract. Like what?
Yeah.
That's something they would do out there in Cincinnati, not in Houston. Damn it!
Oh, son. All right.
Oh, and you know it's true. You know it's true. That's some Cincinnati stuff. Maybe even, dare I say, Chicago Cubs.
No, not true with the Chicago Cubs.
I just had to say that to get your attention.
They just, hang on to players too long and don't give them that extension, and then they just trade them at last minute for nothing.
Yeah. Well, Chicago's had a pretty tough go of it since the 90s. In general, as a whole, in all of their sports, honestly.
Yeah, I was talking about that with Mike Hughes the other day. If you look at where Chicago sports teams are in the standings this year, you can argue that Chicago has the worst sports town right now.
I don't know, man. You would think, because Chicago's such a big market.
I mean, you have the Bulls. You have the Bulls, who are 12th in the East. You have the Bears, who had the worst record in the NFL. You have the Blackhawks, who have one of the worst records in the NHL. You have the Chicago Fire, who had one of the worst records in Major League Soccer. And you have the Cubs and White Sox, who both missed the playoffs last year.
Yeah, like when I look at Chicago, for me, is like that redheaded stepchild of Los Angeles and New York. You got Los Angeles, New York. Those are your primes, East Coast, West Coast, and then you got the middle of the foreground there with Chicago, and they're just like the stepchild of those two bigger empires. Time to be alive. Yeah. And then you got Quintana. That's another thing. You got Quintana sideline right now with the rib injury. You got DeGrom out there in Texas with left side soreness. Again, to Gonzo's point, man, these guys are getting these soft issues now, and we haven't even started the season. How do you see that playing out for Texas? Because Texas does have a little bit older rotation. New York has an older rotation. How do you see this, Dustin and Gonzo, playing out as the season goes on or gets ready to go on?
I could see a lot of teams going with a 6-man rotation the first couple months.
Yeah.
Because you have that extra roster spot now instead of a 25-man roster, you have a 26-man roster. So I could see a lot of teams either bringing on an extra starting pitcher or even bringing
Where are they going to get that 6-man in the rotation? That means they're going to have to bring somebody up from the minors that they think that maybe might be ready to make their debut. I mean, because
not necessarily, because you could have a situation with like the Houston Astros where they have relievers that can go 3-4 innings. They have like former starters that have been turned into relievers that you could just use them in.
Well, let's take the Mets. Let's take the Mets for example, right?
Yeah.
So they got what? Scherzer. They got Quintana, who's hurt right now.
You have Verlander.
Verlander. Who else you got?
Verlander, Scherzer, and Kodai Senga are their top 3.
Right. And then you got
Carlos Carrasco
at 4.
You have Carrasco as your 4. You're going to have Jose Quintana as your 5. And then you have David Peterson, who made 24 starts last year, who can be your number 6.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder how Kodai Senga's. I mean, I know he's great in everything from Japan, but and again, we all know that Japanese pitchers do play well here. But then again, I look at Japan as 2 ends of the spectrum, right? You got Ohtani, who's lights out, amazing, and then you Darvish, that's just kind of in the league. He's been he's okay, nothing special. So I think that's when I see Japanese pitching. That's how I kind of look at it. You either have the fantastic guy or you're the we'll see. And that's where I don't know. And that's why I'm putting the jury is still out on Kodai Senga. I got to see this guy actually play in the season to see what kind of guy he's actually going to transition into from Japan.
Yeah, and the thing with that too is when Japanese hitters come stateside, they have a very tough time adjusting. It usually takes them 2 or 3 years to adjust to kind of the American game, and that's why you see a lot of even Shohei Ohtani, the guy was good right when he got here.
Yeah.
He wasn't the Shohei Ohtani we see now right away. It took him a couple of years to get to the level he's at now because it took him a little while to adjust to the way the American game is played. But when a Japanese
is that just because you said that we do the long ball and the strikeout? Is that what he had to, or is that what Japanese?
No,
or
the
pace
velocity,
of the game, or
the velocity too. There's not a lot of pitchers in Japan that can throw mid to upper 90s. Most of the pitchers in Japan throw 91, 92, but they have so many off-speed pitches. So he has a lot of the Japanese hitters
live and die by timing and movement.
Yeah, that's what takes hitters so long. They got to get used to that timing and movement. But then you look at when Japanese pitchers come over here, a lot of times they have instant success because they're the exact opposite of what the American hitters see nowadays. They're not throwing in the mid to upper 90s with movement. They are throwing in the low 90s with a lot more breaking stuff. So that's kind of why they have instant success right away, because it's complete opposite of what the American hitters see on a daily basis.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that. Because I'll tell you, man, you think those slow balls are easy to hit, but when they're breaking like that, man, it's deceptive. And it throws off your time. It throws off your time, and it's deceptive.
And look at guys like Hideo Nomo. Look at you, Darvish. Look at any Japanese pitcher outside of Shohei Ohtani. They all have extremely weird windups.
Yeah. I never have been a big Yu Darvish fan. Ever since he, when he first came over with the Rangers, the Astros used to light him up right and left, man. We lit Yu Darvish up all over the damn field. It was stupid. And that's why I never liked him. But I mean, he's one out of many. I mean, most of the Japanese pitchers I really do think are incredible pitching. I'm just not. I just look at you, Darvish, as not the kind of guy that's going to get you where you need to go.
I mean, Darvish has had a pretty solid career. I'm not going to say he hasn't. If you look at his major league stats, the guy is 105 and 75 with a 3.40 ERA.
Well, I get that. That's what I'm saying. I think maybe with other teams, I had to look really, like you said, look more in depth into it. I just know the Astros have owned him, like owned the shit out of him.
Yeah. And if
but
you
then
look
there's other pitchers like Rodon, who's over there with the Yankees right now, who, like we talked about last night and how you brought up, terrible in spring training, but then, regular season comes around and the guy pitches well. And Rodon has, had our number. I mean, Rodon has pitched very well against Houston. So
this just goes to show you how different Japanese baseball is compared to here.
Yeah.
So in 10 seasons in the majors, Darvish is 105 and 75 with a 3.50 ERA. He's started 242 games. He has 2 complete games of those 242 and only 1 shutout. So you go to what he did in his 7 seasons overseas. He was 93 and 38 pitching in Japan with a 199 ERA, 164 starts, 55 complete games, and 18 shutouts. So basically 1 out of every 3 starts he was making in Japan was a complete game, and basically 1 out of every 5 was a shutout.
And that shit don't happen over here.
That just goes to show you how different.
Oh, no, I agree. I agree. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Shit. Over here, you're lucky if you pitch 5 innings a game anymore.
That's because freaking managers do all this damn analytics crap. I hate it. I don't need a computer.
I think that's part of it. I think that's the analytics is part of it. But I also think that the hitting has become more. They're not just swinging at first pitches. I mean, a lot more batters now. The chase rate has really gone down. And because of the chase rate, it's causing pitchers to have to pitch more, pitches per inning to get that strikeout or to get that, the out, via the hit, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think the chase rate is what's really affected it.
Yeah, I agree with you there. But at the same time, you have like all these analytical people that say, first time through the batting order, the hitters hit this. Second time through the batting order, the batters are hitting this. Third time through the order, the batters are hitting this. I don't need a damn computer to tell me that my pitcher's entering the third time through the batting order and the first 2 times through he's allowed 1 hit and struck out 10. I don't need a computer to tell me that my pitcher's still fine to leave out there.
Dustin, you need a computer to tell you when to go to the bathroom in the morning. Be quiet.
I do not need a computer for that.
That's what makes me mad because, like, David Bell, for example, with the Reds, it's like he's in a hurry to get to the bullpen.
Look at what Craig Counsell did. What Craig Counsell did to Corbin Burns last year. Corbin Burns had a no-hitter through 7 innings at 81 pitches, and Craig Counsell pulled him out of the game because the team he was facing was coming up to bat for the 3rd time. I don't need a damn computer to tell me that my pitcher's dominating a team with 81 pitches through 7 innings and a no-hitter.
Well, there's certain things analytics can't give you, and that's the feel of the game, too. Like, you'll know, if your pitcher's laboring, not laboring, things like that. So, analytics should be a tool, but it shouldn't be the end-all, be-all for basing when, you take them out or not take them out, solely and specifically because of that. I think you have to weigh the analytics along with the feel of the game, and then you make your decision. And I think, to your point, Dustin, they're not doing that they're going super heavy on analytics and less on the feel of the game.
There's teams that literally pay a guy $400,000 a year to just give them analytical information.
Yeah, of course.
That's like you're taking the human
aspect. What do you expect the guy to do? You expect him to work for free?
No, but I'm just saying, like, you never used to have a guy that you used to hire.
I'm just saying, if you need science, you got to pay for that.
But teams like managers are smart enough to know the science of baseball, though. You never used to have to pay a guy to give you all these analytical numbers.
I don't know if they knew the science of baseball. They had a good understanding for strategy.
Yeah.
And feel of the game, right? I mean,
That is completely
look at their player
taken away, and that's been completely taken away because of analytics, and I hate it.
I think that what's been taken away from the game mostly though is the feel, right? The more you rely on analytics, the less you rely on feel. The more rustier you get at making correct calls when analytics doesn't give you all the answers.
And that's another thing that you're going to notice when the World Baseball Classic starts tonight, especially when Team USA is playing. You're going to notice how much earlier Mark DeRosa is taking his pitchers out of the game because analytics tell you to. You're going to notice how much sooner Mark DeRosa is taking a hitter out for a pinch hitter or switching a fielder out for a defensive sub because analytics tell you to. And then you watch a team like Japan or you watch a team like Dominican Republic, they don't follow the analytical protocol. They go based off of the feel of the game. If their pitcher is giving up one hit through 7 innings, that pitcher's not coming out until he starts to show signs of getting tired. If you have a player that is a defensive liability, if he's 3 for 3 with 2 homers and 6 RBIs, you're not taking him out of the game.
True. Yeah.
Another thing analytics have done here in the United States is turned a lot of our managers into basically puppets.
Exactly.
A lot of the managers aren't even making decisions anymore. It's the analytic guys up in the box making all the damn decisions.
And you've heard that from I can't remember who it was, but it was one of the managers that got fired last year. He even said by the time he got fired, it was more of a relief as opposed to being upset because he felt that he couldn't even manage his team anymore because analytics has become such an important and such a preached product of this game that a lot of managers feel they don't even have control over their team anymore because their input doesn't matter. It's the input of the analytics person that matters more.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I look at, take Dusty Baker, I mean, I know he uses. I don't think he solely relies on analytics, but I do know he uses analytics. He said he uses analytics, but I still think a guy like Dustin Baker still goes by feel of the game and then incorporates analytics in the way it should be, But
hey, Jay, your former Astro pitcher is the pitching coach for Team USA, though.
Who is it? I didn't even look at that.
Andy Pettit.
Oh, Andy Pettit is.
Yep.
Wow. Andy Pettit, he's from Deer Park. I think Andy Pettit grew up probably about 5 or maybe 10 minutes away from where I grew up. He was right there. Right. I remember when he's playing baseball at the high school.
And then you got former Atlanta Brave Brian McCann as the bench coach. And then Ken Griffey Jr. is the hitting coach.
I saw Ken Griffey was in there as the hitting coach, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, I did see that.
Dave Rigetti is the bullpen coach. Former Major League second baseman Michael Young is the infield coach.
Nice.
So, yeah, Team US has a pretty good coaching staff.
Let me ask you this. Hey, real quick. So, Sale pitched 2 scoreless innings the other day. And we all know that Chris Sale's kind of had a really tough go of staying healthy. Nobody knows that probably better than Pride. Pride, I'm pretty sure, is nervous every time probably Sale goes to the mound. But he did give him 2 scoreless innings. What do you think we see from Sale this season? Does he actually make it through a season, or do you think he'll be on the disabled list at some point?
I have my thoughts on Chris Sale, and I might be in the minority. And I might be in the minority of the thoughts that I have what they should do with him.
Okay.
I think they should turn him into Andrew Miller.
And make him more of a
multi-inning relief guy, or just make him your closer.
I think he would be better in the closing, like they did with John Schmaltz. I think he'd be a great closer for them.
Because you saw when Andrew Miller was struggling to stay healthy, and you saw when he was struggling with his command that all it took was a move to the bullpen, and he became one of the best left-handed relievers for a decade.
Right. And I think if Chris Sale would go along with that, like you said, that would be better for his career, especially given the injury prone that he's been. So you make him your closer, man. You got one hell of a closer.
You're not going to be able. You cannot count on Chris Sale to give you 25 starts and 150 innings anymore. If you get 20 starts and 100 innings out of Chris Sale, that is a win-win for both sides.
Oh, hell yeah.
So if you want to the guy still has one of the best breaking balls in baseball.
And how many seasons do you get that out of him, too?
If you leave him in the starting rotation, you'll be lucky to get 2 years out of him.
That's my point. I think to your point as well, if you switch him over to the closing role, you're going to definitely extend his career by a lot.
And a guy that used to throw 96, 97 has kind of fallen down to like that 93, 94 range because of the injuries. Right. You put him back in that closer role, you're probably getting that 96, 97 out of him again.
There you go.
Yeah, and might get a couple more 2 or 3 more seasons out of him at a high level.
Exactly. And you're getting 55, 60 innings a year off of him as opposed to counting on him to give you 100 more innings?
True. Yeah.
But all right, guys, let's get the final thoughts for this morning. What you got, Jay?
No, again, the World Baseball Classic, everybody's going to have their eyes on that. I'm definitely going to be watching it. Definitely not at 10 o'clock at night, but I'll catch that Saturday game at 8. I'm going to catch the U.S. games, and I really hope we make it. I hope the USA does something.
What else you going to be doing at 10 o'clock tonight?
Several things. You need a list?
Probably not.
If I'm up, I'll try to catch it. But look, if it's not USA baseball, I really don't give a damn. I want to see US and I'll watch the Dominican because Dominican, Puerto Rican, Cuban. That's where we get a lot of our players from. So I definitely be watching, especially for the draft that comes up next January that Dustin alluded to. I'll definitely be watching just for those reasons alone. To see who we may go and where and what draft. So, but no, other than that, man, just catch us on the afternoon blitz at 1 o'clock, and make sure you catch Unscripted at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight.
What you got?
Final thoughts for me are go Netherlands. I'm rooting for the Netherlands tonight to beat Cuba just because I like the Netherlands squad because we
don't like Cuba. Everyone says that whole Bay of Pigs thing. We don't like Cuba, okay? We'll take their baseball players, but we don't like the country.
But a lot of the players on the Netherlands are from like Aruba. A lot of the players in the Netherlands are from Curacao and some of those areas that are owned by the Netherlands. So I kind of like that. I hope they do well, and obviously Team USA, we got to see if they can repeat. We got to see if they can live up to the hype that a lot of those players have been kind of hyping up because Mike Trout did not play in the last World Baseball Classic that we won. Peter Alonso did not play in the last World Baseball Classic that we won. So are these guys now going to be able to kind of match that same intensity that previous group matched when they won it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
My final thoughts. Don't forget, check out the ASAP Network app. Android users, you can find it at the Google Play Store, also on Roku, and then also on Amazon. You have a Fire Stick, go to your apps or go to apps, ASAP Network. New shows get uploaded there all the time. Also, don't forget, like Jay said, 1 p.m. Eastern Day afternoon blitz. 3 o'clock, Easy Money, a sports betting show. And then tonight, 7 o'clock, Unscripted. And then also don't forget this Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, new show I'm going to be doing with Greg Broderick. The Sports Happy Hour starts this Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. So make sure to check that out. And then hit that subscribe button on YouTube at Gonzo Sports Room, at the All Sports All Plays Network, and at Unscripted. And then also follow on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, all at Gonzo Sports Room and the ASAP All Sports All Plays Network. That's where we post all the information about different shows. But we appreciate everybody watching. This has been Around the Bases. We'll see you guys next time. Have a good day.